Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finds himself at the receiving end of fresh internal and international condemnation. This after the bodies of 6 Hamas-held hostages who were executed in Gaza were recovered on Sunday. However, Netanyahu remains defiant and he is once again vowing to see the end of Hamas. Here's more.
After the Sunday recovery of bodies of 6 Hamas-held hostages in Gaza, Netanyahu is in the eye of another storm. The incident has reignited protests across Israel. Protesters are voicing their anger at the government's failure to reach a ceasefire agreement and hostage release deals with Hamas. The nationwide strike continues for the third day, and the anger is palpable.
We're demanding a deal, a hostage deal, to get everyone out. We're demanding from the government to stop putting anything that is in the way of having a deal. We don't want it in any other way, because in any other way, people are losing their lives.
The resistance is not only limited to Israel. Big Brother America also thinks that Netanyahu needs to do more, and President Joe Biden has made his stance clear. He wants Netanyahu to do more.
Mr. President, do you think it's time for Prime Minister Netanyahu to do more on this issue? Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
However, Bibi seems unfettered. It was clear from his Sunday's address after hostage bodies were recovered and pressure began mounting on his administration. According to reports, they were killed not long before the Israeli army's arrival. 3 days on, an unrelenting Netanyahu is only doubling down on his stance. He has slammed UK's suspension of some Israeli arms sales as shameful and claims that the move will embolden a genocidal Hamas. Remember, even the British government is facing growing backlash over its unaccounted support to Israel. Not only this, he has also rejected calls to soften his demand to keep troops in the southern Gazan border area as the price for a ceasefire deal. Netanyahu says his forces will not vacate the Philadelphia corridor. Almost 11 months into the war, there is but bleak hope for renaming hostages' safe return as the Israeli Prime Minister carries on his mission to eliminate Hamas at any cost, even if it means putting lives of Israelis and other nationals on the line. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
All right. For more analysis, we are now being joined by Edward P. Joseph from Washington, D.C. He's a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University and the current executive director of the National Council on U.S.-Libya Relations and former U.S. Army helicopter pilot. Edward, welcome back to WION. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a devastating weekend when we learned about the executions of these hostages in the hands of Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has an unwavering commitment to combat Hamas. On the other hand, President Biden says that Netanyahu is not doing enough to free Israeli hostages. Has the United States lost its sway with Benjamin Netanyahu, and what's the best path forward?
Susan, good to be with you. And it's really not a mystery here. The situation is not unique. It's the standard case. What foreign leaders pay attention to most is their domestic political standing. When it comes to international pressure, yes, it's important. They pay attention, particularly when it comes from the United States, but they look at their domestic standing most of all. And in this case, Prime Minister Netanyahu sees that the Israeli public is divided about this. So within his party, he retains strong support, particularly so, I would say even more support within his party and that part of the political spectrum after the news came out that these 6 young hostages, all of them under the age of 40, and most of them, 5 out of the 6 young people seized at that concert last October 7th, and one of whom was very prominent, Hersh Goldberg Poland, whose parents spoke movingly at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. And when it came out, the news came out that these 6 hostages had been executed in just recently, not that they'd been killed sometime during the war in circumstances that were unknown, but in circumstances that were clear that Hamas had executed them, presumably when they feared that Israeli troops might be nearby and might discover them and rescue them. And that has actually galvanized support for Prime Minister Netanyahu among the right. On the left, however, it's proof that Netanyahu has delayed the hostage and return and ceasefire deal that the U.S., along with Qatar and Egypt, have been trying to negotiate for so long. So that's the quandary. And as long as Prime Minister Netanyahu believes he has strong political support both within his government and within his party and that part of the public spectrum, he will not change his position. Please.
Edward, thank you so much for that. We'll be following this story very closely, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon about this, hopefully not under such devastating circumstances after the execution of those young Israeli hostages. I apologize for the audio misstep a little earlier. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.